Okay, this is 1.2 complex fractions and unit rates. So let's get started. So on your do now, this is what we are doing. So you're supposed to identify all that are unit rates. So unit rates, remember, is making sure that it is out of 1. So there is a 1 on the bottom. So it could be miles per 1 hour, okay? Or we could also write it miles per hour, okay? So I did kind of trick you on this a little bit. So is this out of 1, the 4 minutes? No, so it's not A. Is B out of 1 hour? Is there 1 on the front, on the bottom? Yes, so B would be correct. How about C? This says 4, and then this MPG, if you've ever heard of that before, it means miles per gallon. So is that 1 out of 1 gallon? Yes, so that is a unit rate. And last, this is meters per second, or it could be miles per second, depending on what we're talking about here. So meters per second, is it for 1 second? Yes. All right, so all 3 of those, B, C, and D, they are unit rates. Okay, and then to create your own unit rate, you could have said maybe it was 50 gallons per second. Okay, or you could have said something else. Okay, anything that had a 1 on the bottom, that would be a unit rate. So what is a complex fraction? That's what we're going to be working on today. It's a fraction where either the numerator, denominator, so remember the numerator is the top number, the denominator is the bottom number, are both are also fractions. So you have a fraction within a fraction. So looking at this example here, I have 20 over 1/2. Well, that just means it's just another fraction. And remember that this means, this right here means division, okay? So that just means division, okay? All of these lines. So how do we solve complex fractions? Well, it's just division problem, so we're just going to divide. So let's look and see how we're going to do that. So let's solve this first example. The first thing that you're going to do is you need to write it as a division problem. So I have 20. This means divide. So we're going to write a division symbol. So that part here. By 1/2. So it's 20 divided by 1/2. All right, so we learned how to divide by fractions. And to divide by fractions, we make sure that they're all fractions first. Okay, so I'm going to change this 20 to 20 over 1. And then divided by 1/2. And then now I need to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so the 20 over 1 stays the same. I'm going to multiply, and I have to find the reciprocal. So I have to multiply, check. The reciprocal is, remember, you flip the 2, so it'd be 2 over 1. So I got that one. All right, so now I just need to multiply. All right, so what is 20 times 2? That would be 40 over 1. So then that is just 40. So my answer is 40 in my complete simplest form. Let's go on to the next one. So I have 1/2 divided by, so that's a divided by 6. All right, so we just need to write it as a simple problem. So I have 1/2 divided by, and then 6. I like to make everything into fractions first. So we do 1/2 divided by, and then the 6 becomes 6 over 1. Next up, I need to multiply by the reciprocal. All right, so we're going to change this to multiplication. And then the reciprocal is, I put the R there to show that I'm taking the reciprocal, 1 over 6. And then the first term or number stays the same. So I have 1/2 times 1/6. And that is equal to, so now we just have to multiply them. 1 times 1, just multiply the numerators, is 1. And then 2 times 6 is 12. So then I can't simplify any further, so that is my final answer. And for example 3, I have 1/2. So write it as a fraction. Oops. Write it as a division problem. This means to divide by 1/3. Okay, so I wrote it as a division problem. They're all fractions, so now I just need to multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1/3 would be 3/1. And then my first term just stays the same. So now I'll just multiply. So what is 1 times 3? That's just 3. And then 2 times 1, that's just 2. Now, is this the simplest terms? No, I can make this into a mixed number, okay? Because this is an improper fraction. So this is 1 1/2. If you don't know how I got that, basically it's simple division. So how many times does 2 go into 3? 1 time. So you subtract 2, and you get 1 left over. So it's 1. This is where I get the 1/2. 1 divided by 2, or 1/2. So that 1/2 is right here. Okay. So this is like your remainder part out of 2. Okay. So my final answer is 1 1/2. Next one, so we're going to be using complex fractions to find unit rates. So Josiah can jog 1 1/3 miles in 1/4 of an hour. Find his average rate of average speed in miles per hour. So this is what I want. So I want miles per hour. And so I have 1 1/3 miles per 1/4 hour. Okay. Right. So he jogged 1 1/3 miles in 1/4 hour. So I need to find miles per hour. And it tells you, so this is your miles and this is your hour. So it's miles per hour. Okay. So the first thing I need to do is write as a division problem. So this equals 1 1/3 divided by 1/4. I need to have them all fractions. So I need to change this into a fraction. Okay. So remember, to change 1 1/3, we go around, we're going to multiply, and then we're going to add. So this is 3 times 1, which is 3, plus 1 more is 4. So that I have 4/3. So I have 4 parts. If you don't understand that, then I have 1 whole and a third. So let's go ahead and draw my third. So I have 1 whole and 1/3. So how many thirds do I have together? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I have 4 thirds. This part here, remember the 4 I get from multiplying and then adding, and then the third on the bottom is just this number here. That's just a simple trick. So I have 4 thirds, and then divided by 1/4. Now I have all fractions, so now I need to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by the second term needs to be reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1/4 would be 4/1. And this stays 4 thirds. Now go ahead and multiply straight across. So 4 times 4 is 16. And then 3 times 1 is just 3. So how many times does 3 go into 16? I'm going to go ahead and do long division so you can see that. You can do it in your head. You don't have to do it this way. But how many times does 3 go into 16? That's 5 times. 3 times 5 is 15. I subtract, I get 1 left over. So this 1 here is my remainder. So I have 1 out of 3 parts. So it would be 1/3. So my total, or my answer, would be 5 1/3. Okay, next one. Tina is painting her house. She paints 34.5 square feet in 3/4 of an hour. At this rate, how many square feet can she paint each hour? So you're trying to find how many square feet per hour. So I have 34.5 square feet. So I'm going to just put feet squared per 3/4 of an hour. So I have, if you're looking here, I have feet squared per hour. Okay. So we need to first write it as a division problem. So this equals 3/4 and 1/2 divided by 3/4. Okay. Remember, this line is division. So we wrote it as a division problem. Now we need to make it all fractions. So we need to make this mixed number into a fraction. So we're going to multiply, and then we're going to add that top number or whatever's left over. So I have 34 groups of 2 or halves, right? So 34 times 2 is 68, plus one more up at the top is 69. So I have 69 halves divided by 3/4. So the next step, I need to multiply by the reciprocal. Oops, I haven't done it yet. So I'm going to multiply. So change the division to multiply. And then the reciprocal, remember, you flip the term. So it'd be 4/3. And then the 69/2 just stays the same. And then we're going to go ahead and multiply. So 69 times 4 is going to be 276/6. And then to simplify, you would get 46. So you can do 276 divided by 6. 6 would go into 27 4 times. This is 24. You get 3, 36. So then 6 times 6 is 36. Okay. If you didn't want to do this piece here where it was too big of a multiplication, you can always simplify first. So I can divide by 2 here and divide by 2, right? So I get 1 here and I get 2 here. I could also divide here by 3 and 3. So I get 1 here, and then 69 divided by 3 is 2, or 60 divided by 3 is 20, and then 9 divided by 3 is 3. So then I would have 23 times 2, which is equal to 46. So what does the 46 actually mean? It's how many feet squared she can paint in each hour. So it's 46 square feet per hour, or the unit rate. All right, so now this question is a little bit different. So it says write 33 1/3% as a fraction in simplest form. So how do we write percent as a fraction? So remember, percent is out of 100. Okay, so let's write the division problem first. So I have 33 1/3, right, percent. And I have to write that out of 100. So that equals 33 1/3 out of 100. Okay, which now let's write the division problem. So 33 1/3 divided by 100. Okay, next step is to multiply or make it all fractions. Okay, so I need to change this 33 1/3. So I multiply the 3 times the 33, and then I add this one of that third. So 33 times 33 is 99, plus one more is 100. Okay, so I have 100 thirds divided by 100 over 1. So this becomes 100 over 1. And then the 33 1/3 becomes 100 over 3. So the next step that I need to do is multiply. Oops. So multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 100 would be 1/100th. Okay. And then I have 100 over 3. Well, I see hundreds on the top and bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and cross cancel those. So I get 1 and 1, or what I'm doing is really dividing by 100 here, and dividing by 100 here, so then I get 1. So then my final answer would be 1 times 1, which would give me 1 on the top, and then 3 times 1, which is 3. So my final answer is 1/3. So it says write 33 and 1/3% as a fraction in simplest forms. So I get 1/3.